I'm Chris Landreth. I am an animator, and I have spent much of the last few years directing short films. I did a film called The End way back in 1995, and did a film about clowns called Bingo, and did a film that is probably my most notorious film called Ryan, an animated documentary about a friend of mine who was an animator who fell on hard times. And most recently, I did a film called The Spine a couple of years ago. Well, I've always been personally drawn, obsessed with people's faces, and I would say if anything got me into doing character animation, it was being able to recreate what I would see in people's faces. I mean, it's being able to recreate a face and move it as an animated character is portraiture, but it's also psychology, it's acting, it's certainly the technique and the technology of being able to move, in the case of CG characters, to be able to move, control vertices around and make it give emotional resonance to an audience. How do you do that? That's what I've always been quite, in a good way, preoccupied with trying to get insight into. Being able to when I teach the course, I try to get people to see faces before doing any kind of technique or any kind of animation. It's a course on facial animation, but what goes into, in my opinion, what goes into being able to create an emotion or a mind behind the face of a character is being able to see what's going on in the face and know that the changes that happen in a face are part of something much bigger. They're part of how our minds as human beings work, how we puzzle things through, how we react, how we think of things in our heads, and how that reads on a face. The way that we blink, for example, when we talk and when we're engaged and agitated, we blink a lot more often. Our eyes, when we are thinking of thoughts, like when we are trying to come up with a thought, people tend to look up to their right-hand side. When they're trying to deflect a thought, they tend, it's not always the case, but it is so largely the case that people will look to their left. Little things like that are the way that our minds work, the way that our brains try to organize the world, shows up in our faces, shows up in our eyes. When we react with disgust to something, there's a little line that goes between the wing of the nose and the lip. It's called the nasolabial fold, and you'll see that kind of when a person's feeling disdain or contempt or something negative, you'll see these folds increase a little bit. And just knowing how to read those things, the furrows in an eyebrow when a person's concentrating, those kinds of things show much more than just those features in the face. They show a mind. They show a soul capable of emotion, and being able to translate that onto a face it's not just working the face. It's working the whole character. It's working the whole character's mind. So that's what I try to teach. I try to teach people how to see this stuff, and then once they're able to see it, and to be able to draw it out. Drawing is a big part of what I teach. Then it becomes much more second nature to know how to animate and know how to time the animation of a face, the way that a person squints a little bit when they smile, how to be able to time that to make it look like, not just to make it look realistic, but to make it look really human and compelling and believable. Well, there's a difference between realism and believability. There's sometimes those words are used interchangeably. But what you see with a lot of films that we know about where they're ultra realistic, but people don't buy the characters because something is a little wrong with the animation. That's the thing that we all know, or a lot of us know, as being the uncanny valley. And yeah, we get into uncanny valley issues when just the rule of thumb is that if the modeling, that is the creation of how the face looks, is better than how the face moves. That's the rule of thumb with doing like realistic animation. Don't let your animation be worse than your modeling. Okay, so what I teach, I mean, when I teach the course, I teach it with. I don't even get into doing CG characters for a few sessions into the full version of my class. I try to get people to see how faces on real people look, and as I say, how I teach this is it starts off very passively at the beginning. You learn how to see how a face looks. Never mind whether the face that you're about to create is realistic, whether it looks like a real person, or whether it looks like a cartoon character. Whether and this gets into believability, whether a character is a cartoon character or a photorealistic person has nothing to do with whether you're going to buy into that character emotionally if you're in the audience, right? What I try to teach is that there are complex things that happen to a face depending on complex stuff that happens in a person's mind. And if you know those things, or if you can get a sense of how those things are related, you can create either a cartoon character or some person that's photorealistic, and have the audience buy into that character.